quagmire of cues. Rather than muddy the waters, let's plunge right in, up to her neck in it. It's Sally Phillips. Yay! Getting bogged down, it's Sindi. Absolutely swamped, it's Aisling B. And the very embodiment of QI, it's Alan Davies. Admire their quagmires. Sally goes. That's nice. Sindi goes. I've had weekends like that. Aisling goes. Wow. So many things come to mind that I'm not going to say.
There's only one thing, really.
Alan goes.
Giggity, giggity.
Quagmire? You don't know Quagmire?
No.
It's a character from Family Guy.
Do you not watch Family Guy?
No.
OK. Let's get stuck into some questions. What's old, cheesy, and found in the Bog of Allen? It's a good picture.
This has kind of blown my mind.
Why?
Because I'm from the Bog of Allen. And I don't mean where I'm from in Ireland. I mean, like, in Ireland, where I'm from. Yeah, me English is great. I mean, like...
I'll translate as you go through. What she's trying to tell you is about her native place.
It's not just any part of Ireland. It's actually a real part of Ireland, very close to my house. We used to take school tours
to the Bog of Allen.
Allen.
So it's County Kildare.
Kildare.
Yep.
Okay. And we didn't realise how special it was growing up, but it's hashtag real special.
Because?
Just because of its bogginess. I just realised I didn't take anything in on the day when we...
OK, that's not really what I'm looking for.
Okay.
It's one of the unique places where you can find something.
A cheesy thing.
Cheesy thing, yes.
Did you used to
Dairy
throw
thing.
cheese wheels into the Bog of Allen?
That's where my baby bills went for my packed lunch.
Yogurt.
Keep going in the dairy thing.
Butter.
Butter. It's bog butter.
What?
Bog butter. So there's actual butter buried...
Only one person enjoyed that. My 7-year-old would be on the floor laughing. Butter in the bogger!
There is a guy on YouTube who has a whole channel devoted to flushing different things down the toilet.
Seriously?
Yeah. Soft cheese, cheesy puffs, like a whole beef Wellington. Will it flush? Yes, it does.
So I don't know what I'm more worried about, that channel exists or that you're watching
You're the
it.
only subscriber.
And Sally, is he single?
And Reader, I married him.
I want to know how you crossed the bog as school children. Did you go in planks?
Do you know what? There were actually planks. And I remember one time we also went on a retreat that we had to cross it in the dead of night. It was a Catholic retreat now, so I think it was trying to make us feel a bit like Jesus did or something.
The story of Jesus and the bog is one that's not often told.
Sandy, you don't just immediately walk on water.
No.
You have to build up to it.
Anyway, butter.
Butter.
Butter buried in cloth or sometimes in barrels and left there, and some of it has been there for as long as 2,000 years, so clearly been forgotten. Still edible.
Sorry, who ate it?
Alan.
Alan, yes. Because of the cold temperatures, because of the high acidity and the lack of oxygen, it actually decomposes extremely slowly. And, well, it makes our sell-by dates look rather ridiculous, frankly. Now, the question is, why did people decide to bury their butter in the bog?
To stop the British stealing the butter, maybe.
Theft is a really good reason. What else?
To preserve it.
Yeah, preserve it, particularly in the summer months.
Putting stuff in mud is a really good preservation thing. When I was young in the summer, my mother would make yogurt and say, go and put it in the mud. And then you'd forget. And then she'd say, bring the yogurt. And then you would leave and try to get someone to adopt you because...
Couldn't remember where it was.
Couldn't be, I lost the yogurt, because that would be it. So you would just leave the house.
That's how you've ended up with us.
That's how I'm here.
OK.
Did you have any bog people come out of the Bog of Allen?
There were. He went to school with us for 7 years.
Denmark has shed loads of dead people in the bogs. In fact, one of the best preserved bog bodies was a Dane, a guy called the Tolland Man.
Yes.
And actually, if you have a look, it's just that extraordinary. Quite often, corpses like this were found with incredible signs of violence. Hanged, beaten, strangled, stabbed. And I don't mean one of those 4, I mean all of them.
And then thrown in the bog.
Yes, really, really dead.
That is what you call overkill.
Yeah, well, it is actually, that is the technical term, it's called overkilling.
But then, Sandy, can I ask, if we know that people are being tortured and then thrown into bogs, what kind of school takes children on a bog school trip?
An Irish Catholic school. May I introduce you to the nuns?
It's
only an eighth of what Jesus went through for all of you little shits.
Does anyone have any butter for this roll?
So you get it wrapped in cloth, you get it stored in barrels, and there's a guy called Brian Caller, we actually spoke to him, he recreated bog butter in an experiment at the Bog of Allen. He only kept it for 18 months in the bog, which I think is not really long enough. It should be 2,000 years at the minimum. He says it has an earthy flavour, not unlike Parmesan cheese, and apparently it's very good on popcorn.
Oh.
In Wales, they came up with a completely different thing to do with bogs. Any ideas?
I know this
Oh,
because
right.
I play a part who's the head of the Welsh Tourist Board, and they do bog snorkeling.
Yeah. It was conceived in the 1970s in a pub, curiously.
Something's got hold of him.
Yeah.
He's not alone in that water, is he?
He does look startled.
I don't know where number 1 and number 2 are, but they're under the water.
It's essentially a swimming race. It takes place in a muddy trench in the Wine-Wreath Bog. And contestants have to swim 110 metres through the marsh wearing a mask snorkel.
They have to.
Yeah. But have a look, because some of them, I think, haven't really got the hang of it. You know, your basic snorkeling. I think this guy... more proficient. He's actually got the hang of using a snorkel. But about 3% of the world's surface is covered in peat. It's a fantastic carbon sink. It stores twice as much carbon as all the forests in the world. So they might have told you that when you went to visit the Bog of Allen.
I missed out on that bit. But I think there's a famine museum on it, you know, for kids. And you go around all these places looking at people being like, "Ugh," from the famine. And
You know, in India, we just go out.
And find the real...
We just take our kids and say, see that? Get good grades in math. See that?
Very immersive, that.
Very immersive.
To keep your butter fresh, you might want to think outside the bogs. Here's a tastier question. Where does corn come from? Oh, yes.
No, I do know this for a fact. Mo Farah makes it.
Do you eat it, Alan? Is it part
Yes,
of
I ate loads of it.
So do you know where it comes from?
Sainsbury's, I get it from. Isn't it a fungus?
It
or
is. It's a
something?
mycoprotein, so
Yeah.
it's made entirely from fungi. But why is it called corn?
Oh, branding?
I mean, it's called corn because if you said, here's some microfungi, nobody would eat it. Nobody would eat it.
Well, here's one of the most delicious pieces of irony. It's named after one of the UK's biggest hunts. Yeah, I have to say that very carefully. The hunt used to take place at Quorn Hall in Leicestershire. In the village of Quorn, it was the home of Hugo Meinl. He was an MP and he was an absolutely fanatical huntsman. But it is a village. And in 1914, the Quorn Specialist Company of Leicester registered the word as a trademark. They did custard powders and sauces and stuffings.
Because it's a vegetarian thing. It
is a vegetarian thing.
It's when you're vegetarian and you move here and you say I'm vegetarian, they start presenting you with this stuff. And they say, here's a corn hot dog and a corn hamburger, and you're like, I've never eaten a hot dog or a hamburger. Can I just have, like, a tomato? That's enough for me. Spare me.
But you must have hell in Denmark, because the Danes don't understand
Oh,
vegetarianism.
the first time I went to Denmark, I was going to meet my future in-laws, and my husband was like, oh, let's go to McDonald's. So it was a drive-in, and then he said to the guy, and that time I understood no Danish. So he just leaned in and I heard you. And I had no idea. I mean, you know what I mean. But you know what I mean. That's what I heard.
I have a funny feeling you're not going to win this evening.
That's what I heard. And I won't say what the lady said back. She just said something in Danish. And then she made 2 Big Macs. Then she put my husband's in the box. Then she took mine, opened it, threw out the patty, put the bread back, and handed it to us. And she said, yeah, we have vegetarian here. And my husband was like, yeah, I'm sorry, they're still catching up with vegetarianism.
But in 2004, the Quorn Hunt tried to register their name...
Well done.
Thank you.
You're going to slip up in a minute.
I know.
I can't wait.
I know. So the Hunt from Quorn tried to register their name for a range of non-foodstuffs, and they couldn't because Marlow Foods, who own it, objected and said they might be adversely affected by being associated with a hunt, and they won. So, on the vegetarian food, we each have a vegan sausage roll. I know, rather get overexcited. We've gone all out on the budget today. How is that, Aisling? Is it nice? Is it really good? OK, so it contains half your recommended daily saturated fat in a single sausage roll, a third of your recommended salts. It has more calories than a McDonald's cheeseburger, and palm oil, the farming of which is responsible for 80% of the world's deforestation between 1990 and 2008.
How is it still legal?
No, but it is really good that it doesn't contain meat, because I don't think people realise how much the emissions of the meat market are affecting climate change. According to the UN, it makes up 18% of the world's total, so that's more than cars and planes and all other forms of transport put together. So you've got the direct emissions, you know, you're burping and you're farting from your cows. But then there's all the land clearing and all the feed production, food manufacturing, fertiliser production for animal feed, pumping water for animals to drink, refrigerating the meat. A third of all fossil fuel produced in the US goes towards animal agriculture.
Yeah, and also back to soya. A lot of people are like, oh, don't use soya milk, it's bad for the environment. But most of soya that's grown is for cattle feed, not for veggie options and veggie milk and stuff.
I started drinking soya milk because everybody said it's really good for you. I got kidney stones.
You have to have almond milk, but almond milk takes 1 million gallons of water to grow 1 almond or something.
So almond milk is not good for the environment because I don't want to shock anyone, but it's a very thirsty nut. The almond. Oat milk is the best one. Oat milk is the most sustainable of all the alternative milks, but and this is not a joke, it does take ages to milk an oat. The science of it is really new, so they've actually only developed the process to make oat milk in the last 7 or 8 years. I think in either New Zealand or Norway, but they can't keep up with the demand.
Something that starts with N.
Yeah, exactly.
Nigeria.
Oat milk comes from Sweden.
Exactly. So Sweden is very much the love child of New Zealand and Norway.
So that's how the Swedes see it. Corn gets its name from a famous hunt. Who searches for scollops around a bunny hole?
See, now you've nearly said bollock.
Is it Hugh Hefner?
We are using historical slang from Cornwall. I can tell you that a hollybubber might search for scollops around a bunny hole. So Cornwall, what's Cornwall famous
Pixies.
for? Pixies, I love that. No.
Crabs.
Tin.
It is quarrying. We are in the world of quarrying. Scollops are small pieces of stone which you might find around the edge of a quarry. The bunny hole is pretty simple, actually. It's just the entrance to the mine or the quarry. And the hollybubber is someone who makes a living collecting these stones. So, we've got that. Hollybubbers, scollops and bunny holes. Can you work out what any of these pieces of quarrying slang might be used for in a sentence? There they are. Anybody want to make a sentence out of one of those words?
Dumblehole is the online porno name that Dumbledore goes by.
Lego's the most fun you can have with plastic.
Let go of me nog, you double hole. Or I'll thrust you in the breast.
Yeah, there you go. They're wonderful words. To knob is to remove protruding pieces of stone.
No, it isn't.
Throstle breast is any kind of stone which has got a sort of spotted appearance. Dumblehole is sweet, isn't it? It's a derelict quarry, so one that's no longer in use. And Lego is an old word for a fault in a quarry. Quarry, of course, comes from the Latin meaning to make square. That is a place where square blocks of stone were made. What was the problem with the biggest stone ever quarried?
It was really heavy.
Yes, is the right answer.
It rolled down a hill and landed on Wile E. Coyote.
No, it was too heavy to move, the largest stone ever quarried. It was found in Lebanon in 2014. It was named the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. It weighs 1,650 tons, which is the same as 500 elephants, or 8.25...
Camels.
Brontosaurus. Blue whales.
blue whales.
I find it very offensive that something that's big and huge
Yeah.
and can't be moved is called pregnant woman.
Yeah.
Why can't it just be called fat man?
The theory about the pregnant woman stone is that women who touched it were more likely to get pregnant. And there is a Fat Man Mountain in Montana.
Then I think that's fine.
But how can they say it's the biggest stone ever? Surely that would be the Earth.
It's the biggest stone
Or a
quarried.
cliff,
The
a
biggest
quarry.
stone... So it had probably been cut 2,000 years ago. It was intended for a nearby temple of Jupiter, but it was so big they never were able to move it. So you can see it has actually
Oh, I
been
see.
cut.
So it's
It's
been
not
cut.
just a
Okay.
random bit of earth.
Okay, yeah.
It is... I mean, there is a very large stone that was moved. The largest one ever moved was called the Thunderstone. It was commissioned by Catherine the Great to go under a statue of Peter the Great, called the Bronze Horseman. And legend has it that thunder actually originally split the rock. It weighed 1,500 tons. I like this. It's about 8 times the weight of a bungalow. It took 400 men 9 months to move it 6 kilometres. The workers had to, you're gonna love it, dig it out of a bog. And they basically invented the precursor to the ball bearing. So it was a system of small bronze spheres on which it slid over the ice to get it to St. Petersburg. And they had to keep dismantling the track behind it and laying it out in front. It's an astonishing piece of rock. I'm very fond of Catherine the Great. I think she's rather fine.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I know about Catherine the Great is that she had sex with a horse.
Oh, my God.
I think that's literally the only thing I know. It's probably not true.
No, it's not true at all. It's a horrible, scurrilous thing people said about her. But she did get rid of her husband and rule alone. She's rather marvellous. I mean, almost certainly had him assassinated.
So I've swallowed the patriarchal gossip. The
Yeah.
rumour, they're trying to... OK.
Yeah.
The whole shagger.
But she didn't have her horse lowered
Lowered
onto
onto
her
her.
in a stable.
No.
Sally, you've really thought about this, haven't you? Well, I don't want to be a gossip, right? But I did hear... Basically, she's got some guy, right? Come, I've only heard this from Deborah, right? So I don't know if it's true or not. But they basically lowered a horse down onto it because she's really lonely since her husband left. So basically, that's all I heard, but I don't know if it's true.
But isn't it extraordinary in history? That is the thing that people will say about her.
Yeah.
And not actually that she was an extraordinary ruler and she managed to move that big rock. Right, quarries. We're going back to quarries. They can be rather dangerous places, especially abandoned ones, because they look rather inviting. So there was a quarry, a disused one in Buxton. And this is not it, actually, but it had bright blue water and it attracted lots of swimmers. But it gets its colour from the caustic alkaline chemicals in the rock. It gives it a really high pH. So it's got a pH of 11.3, so if you imagine bleach has got a pH of 12.3, yeah, painful rashes is what you're going to end up with. And they put signs up. People don't want to read signs. People kept going, yay, blue water. And in the end, in 2013, the council opted to dye the water black, and people went, oh, yeah, I'm good. I'm not going to go in there. And no matter how attractive they may look, stay away from dumble holes. It's like a lesbian advice night.
We should do a feature.
Yeah.
Lesbian advice. Holes to steer clear of. Number 1, the dumble hole.
You could have, like, a prog rock band with, like, a really sexy girl going like, "Don't go down to the dumble hole! Stay away from the dumble holes!"
I like the idea of Alan hosting a lesbian
do it.
advice.
I'll say other advice is available.
Right, OK, here we go. How can I be certain I'm not drunk right now?
Oh, it's very hard.
You know the whole smelling toast thing? Like, how do I know if I'm having a stroke? Like, one of the things is you smell toast.
Yeah.
So if you work in a breakfast buffet, it must be very difficult to know if you're having a stroke. You smell chips, or you taste the need for chips, or a kebab, maybe?
My body became a microbrewery.
What?
Yeah. So I felt terrible and a bit woozy all the time.
Was that just like a terrible yeast infection?
Yes. In my brain. I had thrush in my brain.
What? I heard that.
Which made me drunk. Yeah, I went to... I
Sorry,
had
wait,
salmonella.
whoa.
I went to Mexico with Oxfam. They used me as a kind of test run for Coldplay. And so I went down And everywhere I went, people would kill a chicken and cook it in a bin, rolled in cocoa, and I would eat it politely. And naturally, I got incredibly ill and was hospitalised with salmonella. And for many months after that, I had, like, chronic fatigue syndrome, and no one could work out what was wrong. I was having tests everywhere, and it turned out that it was yeast in my brain.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
you could have produced sourdough in your head.
Yeah, I was making my own alcohol. I was just pissed.
Wow.
But did you feel pissed?
I suppose I did, in retrospect, but I didn't think I was, because I wasn't drinking.
To be honest, Sally, you were great fun at the time.
I was very easy.
Can I just say that none of this is where I was heading with this question? Okay, the whole question is about quartz. Right? Yeah, about quartz, specifically amethyst.
What was the question again?
How can I be certain I'm not drunk right now?
Right.
And the answer is to do with amethyst. So it's a violet version of quartz. And Anglican bishops traditionally wear an amethyst ring to remind themselves that they are not drunk. What,
Look
have
at
you got,
this.
Have you got an amethyst on?
Yes.
Oh, my
And I can tell you now, the mama's been drinking and... Yeah,
Why do you wear it, darling? Just because you think it's pretty? Or
no, I basically grew up a Catholic, shunned Catholicism because I was like, that magic isn't real, and then immediately replaced it with all sorts of, like, lady magic, like crystals and psychics and crystal healers and energy healers, and reading my star signs instead of the news.
The belief that amethyst keeps you sober dates back to antiquity. It comes from the ancient Greek word amethustos. It translates as not intoxicated. What's interesting to me is that you have something that is ancient, comes originally from the Greeks, and then goes into traditional religion. So bishops traditionally wear the amethyst ring to remind them that they are not drunk, that they are filled with the Holy Spirit, is the idea. And it later reminded them to not become drunk with power. I mean, it is an absolutely beautiful thing, an amethyst.
I do believe in the power of colour and holding something external to yourself and energy and power. Because if you look at what powers a watch, it's just quartz. So there is a lot of power.
Other advice is available.
A bishop can tell how squiffy he is by taking a look at his ring. But why would a Scotsman want a glass bottom?
Well, you can see through a glass bottom.
You can. Why might you want to see through a glass bottom? We are in a particular kind of drinking done in Scotland.
Whiskey drinking?
Guess what might you drink whiskey out of in Scotland?
A glass.
Tumbler.
It's a special kind of cup called a quake.
A what?
It's called a quake.
Oh.
It's a shallow cup. It's used traditionally to drink whiskey, often made with a glass bottom.
That normally has mango chutney in it.
OK, so there's some thought that Bonnie Prince Charlie supposedly liked to see through the base of his cup, just in case his enemies were up to anything.
You could drink and still use your eyes, I think.
Yeah, so we thought it'd be great to let everybody have a
some
drink.
whiskey.
Yes, please.
So, I'm very pleased with this. It is Toksvig's finest whiskey. There you go.
This is the most, like, rock and roll QI's ever been.
No, there you go. Skål.
Skål. Come on, open
Go
your
for
eyes.
it. Can it launch it?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Another way that you might do a drink in Scotland...
You might do a drink?
Yeah, well, have a drink.
Have a drink.
Yeah, let's do a drink.
Take a drink, everybody. Why might you drink it over water? Why might you toast over water in Scotland?
Some sort of superstition.
So we're talking 1688 when it begins?
Bonnie Prince Charlie
OK,
involved.
so it's the Stuarts.
Usually
the
is.
Stuarts are exiled to France. The supporters in Scotland want the king to return. He is over the water, and so you toast over the water.
Toast over the water.
And in fact, the desire to suppress the spirit of rebellion in the Jacobites was so strong that finger bowls were reportedly banned at court from 1746 until 1905. They were still worrying about it. Is it good?
Yeah, it goes well with the cold veggie sausage roll. This is the Edinburgh Festival in a nutshell.
We don't know where the quake comes from. The National Museum of Scotland recounts it evolved from scallop shells. Another theory, it evolved from bleeding cups.
As in lady bleeding cups? Like
No,
moon cups?
no, bleeding somebody if they were unwell. It's OK. You don't put that between your thighs and try and walk, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a thing.
Other advice is available.
Still looking at the bottoms of drinking vessels, the ancient Greek kylix. So this is a wonderful thing. It's a shallow drinking cup for wine. It's similar to one of these cups, but it had obscene pictures painted on the inside, which were gradually revealed. We've censored this because, you know, they would have things like a couple having sex, a man wiping his bottom, naked people, and then an eye cup. So it's a wide mug with eyes and sometimes a nose painted on the outside. It looked like you were wearing a mask when you drank it. And sometimes they painted ships on the inside, so it looked like the ships were sailing on the wine as you drank it. I think we should have more fun with cups.
How great that you're drinking, you're getting pissed, and at the bottom of the cup is something that you're probably going to do. You know, when you're done with
Like an
drinking.
instruction manual?
Yes, like, you know what, this is where this is heading. Oh, I feel like that just kind of cuts to
I
the
would be
chase.
really annoyed, though, if I got to the end of my cup and I was like, so what, now I have to learn the flute as well?
OK, so I just want to see what kind of audience we have in tonight. Who would like us to remove the pixels? Put your hands up. Who's quite happy with it being censored? Like, listen. Oh, my.
No one at all.
All right, let's
The
remove
best
the
audience.
pixels and see what's behind.
It's going to be a flute.
Literally nothing. Genuine disappointment.
What a tease.
Especially for him.
Conflict in the 18th century would end with a great Scottish quake-off. I'm working. Now, from something squiffy to something quiffy, who would wear a hat like this? You each have a hat.
Hilarious.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, this would be in the band we were talking about. Be careful of going down the Dumbo
yeah.
house.
The hair goes at the front. It actually suits you, darling.
Thank you.
Oh, my God, you look
Claudia
gorgeous.
Winkleman.
Claudia.
You look like you've been working on an airline 15 years too long.
So, around the 20th century, close-cropped hair was absolutely de rigueur and vital for soldiers. But if you wanted to make a fashion statement, you were allowed one exception, and it was a quiff plastered to the forehead. Now, if you couldn't grow one, you could have a fake one, which was stuck to the inside of your cap.
There you go.
It was very particularly popular amongst men, apparently, who just left military prison. And you could use grease or soap to turn it into a little bit of a ringlet.
I've hyperventilated. I feel all squiffy.
Officers frowned on it. They said it was effeminate and unsoldierly. And in fact, in 1904, they were banned from wearing their caps too far back on their heads in order to display their quiffs. But it was young men who still wanted to look good.
Maybe it's also because they wanted to, what the English people say, pull.
Yeah, pull. Here's another military hairstyle. Does anybody know what this is? It's
Military hairstyle from somewhere that's not the West.
No, it was absolutely a critical part of Royal Navy hairstyles.
They had braids?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. This one has actually got braids because it's a prop left over from another show. But
I know my hair.
they had a long ponytail at the back. It's called a queue. It was known as a queue hairstyle. And it was standard in the Royal Navy until the early 19th century. Today, they have to have short back and sides and properly groomed and all that kind of thing. And they specifically banned designer stubble. Also banned hipster beards, handlebar moustaches, because I don't think they want you to look like the village people.
What about a Brazilian? Can they do that?
I believe the Brazilian Navy has very different rules.
They just have one strip along the top of their head.
Yeah.
I mean, really, what do they think it matters if the sailors have a goatee?
You know, you're representing your nation, I suppose it's that.
Isn't it funny that at different times throughout history, certain types of hair or moustaches might be representative of anarchy or conforming, depending on when? Like, say now, hipster moustaches at a time were just exactly what everyone in the war, just general war, the whiskey's kicking in. I know I've got a point, but I'll be honest, it's gonna come out loose.
Those submarines, though, they can be in the water for 9 months of the year. They don't see daylight, their friends or anybody else. I think if they grow a moustache...
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
They don't have facial hair so that masks and breathing apparatus can fit on submarines.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a safety.
And I suppose for bacteria and stuff like that, not to get trapped in the beard.
Yeah, and you might end up with brain thrush.
Yes.
Right. Right, hats away, please. Complete this saying.
The people of QI.
Worry about...
Klaxons.
Very small things. I'll tell you because my youngest kid was reading the QI book, and she said to me, "Mama, what is semen?"
I'm really sorry about that.
Well, and I thought to myself, it's 7:45 in the morning, and frankly, I don't want to tell you. I don't want to tell you what semen is because I don't want to tell you, I'm sorry. So I said, because I didn't know what to say, I said, what is the context? Read me the sentence. And the sentence in your QI book was about bee semen. Very small things. And she said, what is that? And I said, you take the book to school, talk to your teacher, because she's paid.
Different pronunciation of QI.
Key, it's in China.
It is in China, you're absolutely right. It's the state of Qi. It's a small kingdom, existed for a really long time in China, actually, the 11th to the 3rd century BC. And today they're probably best known for the Chinese idiom, the people of Qi worry about the sky.
Oh.
What does that mean?
I've no idea, but it's beautiful.
It is lovely. It basically means don't worry about something that's extremely unlikely to happen. So they used to refer to the fact that people of Qi often talked anxiously about the sky falling on their heads. And that is something that children have worried about. There are children's stories.
Chicken licking.
Chicken licking, known in the United States as chicken little, in fact. A henny penny is known as in Denmark. The Qi people, they were the very first ones to build a great wall. They did it to keep out their neighbours who were called the Chu. And it was constructed, well, it began in 685 BC. It went for 600 kilometres.
Qi and the Chu sounds a bit Dr. Zeus.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. And the Qi wanted to keep out the Chu. They were the last major state to fall to the Qin when China was unified.
What is it with the CH?
It's just well, it's
and
QI.
then it's China. Qi, Qin, China.
Where the word China comes from is from the Qin people. That is where that's where it comes from. But there's an unrelated word, QI, and that refers to the vapour that comes off cereals as they are cooked. And it became a sort of word for breath. It can be translated in English as sort of smell or spirit or atmosphere. It's the sort of...
Qi energy.
The Qi energy. It's a central concept in feng shui. Does anybody believe in feng shui?
I believe in the Hindu version, which is called Vastu.
It means chuck your shit out. If that doesn't work, eBay it. If that doesn't work, free cycle. If that doesn't work, leave it in the road. Someone will take it.
Sure. Apparently, one place with particularly good qi, good energy, is Hong Kong, according to feng shui. It has this auspicious position between the sea and the mountains.
Yes.
If you look at some of the architecture, the idea is that the whole place allows energy to flow really freely. And all of the architecture is designed with that in mind, including some buildings which have holes to allow dragons who want to fly through the city. Western practices of feng shui, though, in interior design, not...
I've been practicing it, honestly, since I was a kid. I've always been interested in how space affects your feelings. So, for example, there's a version of something like you shouldn't have your bed facing a mirror because the idea that you might see someone as you wake up might start...
Don't want to see up your husband's bum.
Exactly.
That's what they don't put in the book.
Other advice is available.
Now, that brings us to the round where things are always as clear as mud. General ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. Other than a dog, what's the one thing you need to play a game of fetch? Yes.
An arm.
Fair enough. What else do you need?
One of those ball launcher things.
Yes, I love those. What is the thing you don't need?
You don't need a stick.
You don't need a stick. In fact, the People's Dispensary of Sick Animals say it causes horrible injuries to dogs. Get lodged in the throat, get cuts. Really? Get splinters, get down into the digestive system. What you need is a ball, and I'm going to just show you, I think, probably the finest dog in the world, just catching a ball. Let's have a... This is... That is my dog, Mildred.
Oh!
She's gorgeous. I think she's very clever. What is the general thing? Do we think dogs are clever or not clever?
Super clever.
Super clever.
Doesn't it depend on the dog?
It
like
depends...
with humans?
No, it depends on whether you like dogs. Really,
Yes.
fundamentally.
Correct.
So they've done lots of analysis of all the different studies of dogs, and they're of average intelligence, frankly, compared with similar animals like... The people that like dogs will say it's great. Most authors who want to set out to prove that dogs are really smart already think so.
But then that's the same as humans, isn't it? There are some real dum-dums out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Many vets say that playing fetch can be dangerous, though they can expect to get a bit of stick. Right, here's another controversial idea. What's so wasteful about this fruit? Yes, darling.
It's all wrapped in things that are bad for the environment.
OK, so
Plastic.
here's the thing. We're not going to klaxon this one, but it is an interesting point rather than a trick question. So here's one of the biggest problems in the West is about throwing away food. According to some environmentalists, the carbon release associated with food waste is a much greater problem than any pollution caused by plastic waste. And here's the thing. Sometimes wrapped in plastic is a good thing. It can be a very efficient way to keep food fresh. So a shrink-wrapped cucumber will last 4 times longer than one that is just loose. Bananas in a perforated plastic bag will last twice as long as a loose bunch, and pears in a plastic bag in a fridge will last 14 days longer than left loose in a fruit bowl. So the best idea is not to buy food that you're going to throw out at all.
Also, edible packaging is the future.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, when they deliver the newspaper, it comes in something made out of potatoes.
Does it?
Yeah, and you have to stuff it in your veg recycling.
Oh, I did not know people still had newspapers delivered.
Do you
But
know
there we are. Plastic is undoubtedly bad for the environment, but it can be good for making your fruit last longer. Which Chinese dynasty made the most valuable vases?
Ming.
Yes?
Quing!
Well, we will get there eventually.
Queef.
It rhymes with bling. Ping.
Thing.
Thing. I like thing. Most expensive Chinese item ever sold at auction is a Qing vase. It went for £43 million in 2010. Here's the thing about it. A brother and sister found it in their parents' attic in West London. Nobody knew how it had ended up there. And if you look at it, it's full of holes. It's not even a very good vase, is it? The most expensive Ming vase sold in 2011 for a mere $17,250,000.
Who's paying this money for a vase?
It's insane.
In the end, it's only worth what someone will hand over.
Yeah. So these are the different ones. There's a ding on the left,
Are you kidding?
a Ming and a Qing. These are all different types. Ding are the cheapest. They're the ones on the left. There was one bought for $3 at a yard sale in New York, and it sold for $2.2 million. But you can see the decoration is strikingly less intricate than the Ming and the Qing.
And it also has no holes, so who's going to waste money on that vase, right?
It is always like when one of those goes on to Antiques Roadshow, I'm always waiting for someone to go, what? Like, there's no way I would be like, yeah, I bought this for £3 in New York, and that was, what, 2.2 million? My what the? Are you kidding me? Oh, my...
Yeah.
And by that, I mean, lovely stuff, great.
They say that, and they say, OK, we're going to have to do the reaction again.
Yeah.
So would you mind saying, oh, I wouldn't dream of selling it. It's been... belonged to my grandmother.
So the high price is put down now to patriotism of the newly wealthy Chinese collectors, because a lot of it came to Europe and now they want to have it back. But the worst story about these fabulous vases was in 2006. I don't know if you remember. There were 3 Qing vases in the Fitzwilliam Museum in Cambridge. They were on a staircase, and a member of the public was coming down the staircase and stumbled.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, smashed them. The visitor tumbled down the right-hand flight of stairs, then along the windowsill from right to left, colliding with each vase in turn. The impact reduced them to rubble and scattered them across the landing and the stairs.
Was it Fiona Bruce?
What is amazing about this picture? This is the vases after they've been restored. Do you not think that is a remarkable...
They mended them.
Yeah, they mended
You know,
them.
I have to tell my mom that.
Yeah.
Because she was here. This story had come out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, my God, Mommy, that's terrible. And she said, who fell down? Who fell on the vase? Did they kill him? So I'm going to tell her.
Yeah, it's all
they
fine.
They look so pretty now. They're back.
It is one of those things like when you're in a shop and you knock something over and there's a moment where you go, and you look up at the person in the shop and they're like, am I gonna have to pay for it?
If you knock something over in a shop, at the moment you knock it over,
Yeah.
you have to go like this. Oh, you little bastard! Where's he gone? There's a little
kid. It's a little kid. It's not coming over. I'll go outside and look for him. Other advice is available.
Right. Where's the traditional place for Irishmen to celebrate Paddy's Day?
In a pub?
Well, why not the pub?
England.
Alan, why not the pub?
Why not the pub?
Because it's a holy day.
Yeah, it's a holy day. It's St. Patrick's Day, March the 17th. All pubs in Ireland used to be closed 1927 to 1960. Usually falls on Lent, and all alcohol sales under the same kind of law banned on Good Friday for even longer, 1927 to 2017. However, there was one place in Ireland where you could buy a drink on that day, and it was the Royal Dublin Dog Show. It was historically a Protestant community event, but everybody went because whether you're a dog lover or not, because
funny.
you could get a drink.
I love that.
I love dogs. I've always loved dogs. Dogs and St. Patrick.
The great Irish poet Brendan Behan is supposed to have abducted a stray poodle in order to get into the members' lounge. And Patrick Kavanagh, another great Irish poet, he rented a dog from a woman so that he could go. But I love that. Do you think that should still be going on now, I think, don't you? That people should have to bend the rules, find a dog to get a drink? I think it's rather fine.
You know, there was that time, that awful time in British history, where in a lot of pubs and venues they'd say no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. And I always think that feels like the stupidest thing in the world. Because can you imagine a pub with just black people, just Irish people, and just dogs? Like, that's the most crack I've ever heard in my life.
There's still that thing in Dublin that they have singing and non-singing pubs.
I mean, Irish people naturally all think they're great singers because of a natural sadness in our necks. Like, give me a song. Give me any song that I might know the words to, and I'll show you what I mean.
Twinkle, twinkle.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Come down.
The Danes would just be sitting in the corner crying, going, she's absolutely right. Which brings us to the messy matter of the scores. In first place, emerging completely unsoiled, with 5 points, it's Sally! In second place, with 4 whole points, Aisling! In penultimate place, with -17, Alan! Place, for Pete's sake, with -27, Sindhu! Thank you to Sindhu, Aisling, Sally and Alan, and good night.